Yeah, my name is Barney Williams. I'm from the west coast of Vancouver, the Cloudcrest First Nations. Also a place where 2 miles from my home was the residential school that I went to.
So, and you're on the Survivor Committee. You're a Survivor Committee member.
I am a member of the Survivor Committee appointed by the Minister. I think it was Northern Indian Affairs. We were all nominated to be part of this group.
Can you talk about what it means to be a member of the Survivor Committee?
Well, I think part of the responsibility for us is to make sure that the cultural component of work is followed. Like, for example, protocols when going into communities such as this one, making sure that we respect the protocols of that particular area we're in. But also, too, I think the importance of our role is to be really aware of where the commissioners, as far as, do they need to be grounded, or do they need to be just pulled back a little bit, not for the sake of slowing down the process, but making sure that they're taking care of themselves as well. But that's a big piece of it, I think. But the big piece is the advice that we're allowed to give in regards to, what maintaining the focus for the survivors and not getting caught up with all this other stuff. Because what this is about is it's about the survivor. It's not about them or us. It should be always focused on the survivor. Yeah. So trying to maintain that focus can be difficult because, of course, they get pulled in different. So do we, right? Like, I don't speak for the commissioners. That's their job to do. They have a mandate themselves. Ours is specifically a role as a committee member to make sure that we are doing what we said we were going to do, and that's to help the stories be heard throughout the country, and then to make sure that these stories are archived so that people can be educated, and then try to educate the public at large about what happened, not necessarily just survivors, but because it's a Canadian problem. It's not just a Barney Williams problem. It's the whole nation has to take responsibility for that. Yeah. Those kinds of things we try to stay focused when we're out there talking to other people, trying to educate them about not so much that this happened to me, but creating an awareness that this happened to a lot of people, not just me. Thousands of people suffered that legacy of that dark time.
Yeah. So, and it's really getting into stuff. Just going to some of the sharing panels, it's really deep.
Yeah, it goes beyond. It's beyond that. I think that part of my life has been that I live this, right? I live the experience of that time. But I'm also cognizant now that I can't stay there, that in order to help other people, I need to be understanding that, I need to move forward. And in a process, make sure that other people get to that point, but not the way sometimes we were pushed, right? Saying, well, you have to do this part. Making sure that we're respecting that a particular survivor may not be ready for that, and to understand that my prayer would be that yes, they will make it to that point someday, but for now I have to understand that, knowing my own pain, like how difficult it was for me, even though I was sober, to talk about it to my wife after 50 years or whatever, right? Didn't have the strength to do that in sobriety, and I imagine if I was still practicing that, and somebody trying to get me to talk about it wouldn't be, it would, I believe, push me further than embracing me and saying, well, you know what, I believe you. Just those 3 words sometimes is what puts people over the hump, is what I believe in.
And I guess it's also powerful that this is a shared experience of trying to get over it or heal from it or deal with it.
Yeah, and I believe it's like part of this. I think for a lot of survivors is the ability to get together with other survivors, right? To number one, to understand that, say, I'm not alone, right? That, like for a long time, I thought I was the only one, right? I thought I was selected out of these group of kids and abused, but you know, lo and behold, the guy had what 500-600 victims, right? I didn't know that. My world revolved around what happened to me, and it wasn't until I met a friend in 2005, right, just a little while ago, and he said, "I know what happened to you." He said, "We had the same pedophile. We were in the same dorm, we were in the same grade." I had no idea that had happened to him as well. So it's that kind of friendships that came out of these things, even though it took him just about 60 years to tell me that. But he did tell me. I mean, it took that long, but I was really moved that he would do that. And it was because of that I moved myself and then went to court and then brought closure to that particular part of my chapter in my life, thanks to him. And I believe that happens with other students when you're in a place like this where they sit down and they just talk, and then all of a sudden the light goes on and says, "Oh gee, maybe I should do that too."
And you were talking about how, so it's important for the survivors, but it's also, you're saying, important for Canadian society as a whole to go through this process.
Yeah, I would say embrace it, right? Because right now there's a few people embracing it, but there's still those people that are saying, "Oh, there go those guys again," right? Complaining and bitching about this and that. They're not understanding that, you know what, this really happened, you know? Not just to me, but thousands of students across the country, not just in BC, but from one end of the country to the other. People suffered, right? We hear stories that are similar to mine. But when I became involved with this and traveled with the commissioners to different people and heard stories, I mean, it was like I could close my eyes and hear myself telling my story through the voice of another person that was from New Brunswick or Nuvik or people I didn't even know that had gone through the same thing. So it was right across the country. And so as a committee member, I try to remember that there's other things I think that are important. There's the mandate of the commission to do all this stuff, but there's also, for us as people that came out of these schools, we have to create within ourselves some strength and some ability to come forward like this, right? Where somebody comes and hears my story and they believe me, right? Or they believe that person that for the first time says, "This would happen to me," right? And that's the key to, I think, the success of the commission when they have the panels, right? Where people are comfortable knowing that it's being written down, that somebody's actually listening to them and they're not being labeled as being a complainer or somebody that's telling lies or telling stories.
And someone told me that they find that the big thing is it's not just talking, there's actually recommendations coming out of this to try and do something. Yeah,
and I think that's the exciting thing for people like myself, and I'm sure other people, that it's not just being written down and say, oh yeah, well, I'll take this somewhere and then I'll make a presentation to whatever. Right? And, a lot of these stories are going to be archived so that people can listen to it. But there's also, out of the first report that they did, some really strong recommendations to the government and to other people to say, here are things that this commission has found out. And we're making strong recommendations. For example, that healing programs shouldn't be cut. They should be enhanced, not cut. Right? So that usually the first things that are cut are the programs, so where am I supposed to go for professional help? And I think that's one of the strong recommendations. And we gotta remember too that sometimes we don't understand, and the we being those of us that suffered. We're not at a place where we've, how should I put this? We haven't been in a place where we were able to speak like this and say, okay, these are my feelings, right? Many people can't do that. So the frustration becomes that I'm still hanging on to that. And I'm speaking now from a survivor perspective. So this commission, for example, and me as a committee member, making a recommendation to the commission to say, well, you need to hear their stories, for example. You need to listen, you need to kind of move away from your role as a judge, a lawyer, or whatever you are, for that moment and say, and listen to the story and then take it from there and then move it from there. So I believe that this commission has proven that. I mean, they've shown their real strong feeling towards the survivor and how we're going to move forward. At least that's what I've seen as being a committee member, that they're really focused on what it is they need to do. And then, like anything else, there's going to be a shortfall, right? It's only the beginning. Where do we go from here? I think that I believe that the recommendations coming out of the report, hopefully somebody up there will become that, for example, that healing programs that are so direly needed, not only now but into the future, will be there and not be cut and say, well, I can't do this anymore because the commission is done. Just because the commission is done, don't stop the healing projects. I think that, I know that they should be enhanced. And I also know that that's going to be cut. So how do we advocate for that? I guess for me right now, that's my biggest concern. I see this movement as really good, and I see it as a movement for this time, but I'm concerned about what's going to happen later on for intergenerational survivors. People that are really part of that process that hasn't gotten to that place. So I guess if I had a concern, that's one of my concerns.
Yeah.
I see things like this as really positive. Right? I mean, there's a lot of hurt and pain comes out of these hearings, but I also know that, just by my own experience, when a person lets go, it's almost like one less wound, right? One big wound that's been bandaged up and you've been given some medicine for it. And now you're kind of ready to go to whatever that next level is for you. And all of us have different levels of hurt and pain that we carry. Right? I mean, alcohol and drug is only just a symptom of the trauma that we experience. And I believe we need to understand that more. And we also need the Canadian public to understand that the guy sleeps on the street or is hungry and begs for food because he's hurting. It's not really him or her. That's not who they really are. Somebody created that monster. And that somebody was an experience they had as a child that they can't quite grasp, they can't quite let go, because the pain is so intense that they have to numb it with drugs or alcohol or doing something wrong so they can be locked up in jail, so that they don't have to be responsible for themselves. That somebody will tell them what to do every day. Exactly what they did to us in residential school. You get up at 6:30, you go to Mass, you go to church, you pray for an hour. You come out of Mass, you go to breakfast, you sit for an hour. You finish your breakfast, you wash the dishes, you make your bed, and then you go to school for the rest of the day. And after school, you have a little time to play, but you're hungry. So we all experienced hunger. We didn't get enough to eat. Had no contact with brothers and sisters. We did. Well, just the list goes on and on. So those are the things that they carry, and those are the things I believe that at least for me, anytime I see somebody, we talk about family. I don't usually talk about what's wrong with them, that they're a drug addict or a down and out drunk, that I don't talk about that. I try to express that. You know what? There may be a time that you'll get past this, right? So try to share a linger of hope that I understand the pain, but there's not much I can do about it. It's an individual thing, and all I can do is support and say, you know what, there is a brighter day, and you can have that. That's your choice, or my choice. So those are the things that I know that even at the committee, that's some of the things I talk about when we get caught up in the paperwork and the policies and all the usual stuff. I say, well, you know what, we need to talk about the survivor. And we need to talk about the guy that's hungry and cold as we sit here and enjoy a big lunch or a hot cup of coffee. We were at a gathering in Ottawa, and I went outside for some air, and I met some street people. They were from different parts of the country, and they said, our chiefs are there, and we'd like to talk to them, right? We want to let them know how we feel. And I thought that was really cool, because that had never happened, right? There was this big gathering of chiefs, so I went to the head of Assembly First Nations. I said, there's 4 guys down there. They're cold, they're hungry. Right? And it was wintertime, so they got no jackets. They huddled together, said their chiefs are here. So we met with them. They said, what do you want? And the guy said, breakfast would be nice. That's all he asked for. And then, and everybody was realized, because we get caught up in our own little world, right? That breakfast for his chief was when he could have it whenever he wanted it. But this guy was a brilliant young man, brilliant. Just listening to him, and that's what he said. So I wanted to sit down, have maybe one toast, he said, a cup of coffee. I really would like some bacon and eggs. He said, I haven't had bacon and eggs for 23 years. I see it. I walk by restaurants. And I said, he said, I get sad, because sometimes people don't need all of it. And I wish they would invite me in. Like the old days, he said. Growing up at home. And the chiefs were moved as well, back into the assembly. And I can't remember what they did, but there's something that's going on in Ottawa where some of these chiefs are connecting with their band members that are on the streets and trying to stay in touch with them and help them. So that was kind of just an intervention as a committee member. I thought it was important to move it to the political level because it wasn't my place to say, well, they needed to talk to their chiefs. So, I mean, I don't know, I cry lots. I have, like I said, I have a lot of pain. When I said in the first one, I was raped when I was little. That went on for 5 years. I was almost 10 when the guy finally found another victim. So consequently, I was a very confused young man, like many of the people that I speak of. I didn't know. I always thought it was my fault. It was only through help of other people that I realized that I was a child. I didn't know. I didn't understand why he was doing that to me. And then I also realize now that I'm scarred for life. I can accept that. I like to think myself as a good person now. And that has been very long. It's been probably 10 years since I realized I have a lot to offer. I'm very capable, but I realize I'm very articulate. I always have been. I was always pushed down and hiding behind the pain and the hurt. And, until someone said, well, you know what, you can do this, Barney. You're quite capable. So, and that's a reflection of me, but that reflection, that we can be talking about anybody. We could be talking about some lady or some young man out there, old man, that's there because they went through what I went through. So those are the things we're reminded of when we're sitting around the table, especially the committee members. So you know what, we need to stay focused here. We need to stay and be reminded that our people are still suffering from the effects of racism. Plus the intergenerational people that have been affected by it, that's only now becoming, there's more dialogue about it. The murdered and missing children. People that want to believe that people actually died in these schools, never made it home. And, so we have that kind of thing that individuals carry. I don't know what happened to my brother, and what happened to my sister. One day they're there, next day they're not. And then those kind of stories are all over the country. My sister was there one day, and a couple of days later she was gone. Nobody's saying it. They've uncovered some graves of kids. They believe there's more. There's more graves that can be uncovered. So it's a big job, but I love it. I need to say that I'm very passionate about being a committee member. I'm very passionate about not trying, but having the ability to help someone to get to the next level just by being me, not pretending to be something I'm not. If I don't know, I'll say I don't know. I'm not afraid to say that because of the confidence I have in myself as an individual, and I'm not saying I'm better than anybody else, but there are still challenges in my life I have to overcome on a daily basis. I'm reminded that these things are still very, like I was saying earlier, very much a part of the life of other people. That are saying, well, gee, I don't know why I'm like this. And they're actually saying that. I don't want to do this. That's the other thing. I don't want to be like this. I don't want to do this. I don't know why I have so much anger. And not all is part of what happened to us as kids. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, we thought that the pedophile I had came to my area when I was still drinking at 20 years old, 21. I mean, the other guy beat the crap out of this guy, almost killed him. Right? And it turns out it was one of the disciplinarians that were in school. And the cop came to let us go. He said, the guy didn't charge you guys. And he just about killed him. He said, what happened? Why did he do that? And of course, me and the other guy were not at a point where we were able to talk about what I'm talking about now. But this cop knew that there had been something that happened as a child with this guy. Why was he not charging us? And I know that other people have similar stories about meeting up with people that abused them in winter years. Because he asked us how we felt, and we both said, never felt better. It was the best I ever felt in my life.
Wow.
And it was because of what he did to me. It wasn't the fact that I beat him up to a pulp. It was the satisfaction, I think, of having the power to finally not retaliate, but do something about what he did to me as a 5.5-year-old. So those kind of stories are out there. There's thousands of people that suffer the same misfortune and are confused as I was when I was in that place. I have gone on and on here, sorry. Just to share that because it's all part of the work is being able to tell others, especially being able to convey a message that, what we all can get to this point we feel really good about ourselves. And I don't know if we put that behind us. I don't think we do. I believe for myself that I walk that walk, but I'm walking a walk now that's felt now with a lot of love and compassion, not only for myself, for my wife, my children, and other people. That the walk that I'm on now is not that walk of shame. I hung my head and I carried lots of anger to many people. I walk with some sense of humility. Justice alluded to that. That is one of the 7 teachings that we have as First Nations. So I walk with a bit of that, and a lot of respect for other people, and especially respect for myself as an individual. But above all, being able to understand that I was a brave young child, to have gone through what I went through, to be able to sit here today with you and to dialogue with you about some of the things that are important to me. And the story of of my little bit of my life and a little bit about my belief about why am I a committee member. I'm a committee member because I believe in me, but above all, I believe in the less fortunate. Because I am less fortunate. I just happen to be a less fortunate that stepped out of that, but I still consider myself in that place where many people are. That's kind of where I come from as a committee member and being the elder to the commissioners. I was selected by my group to be the elder for the commissioners as well. Because of my knowledge of the culture and just where I come from, and how I present myself. So I don't know.
That's good. Thank you very much.
There you go.